Have you ever had the feeling that you want to just go into hermit mode, or have you heard anybody online talk about going into hermit mode? I've been in hermit mode for many years, on and off, and I want to talk about the process that you go through. And I think a lot of people that get called to it have a spiritual calling, have a spiritual nature where they are going to do something really big in the world. But I also think that people tend to avoid it because of some pitfalls. And I want to talk about that process if I can just be your mentor for just a second. So, part of the reason why you might want to go into a hermit mode, a lot of times when I see this online, it's always put your head down, go grind, go build some product, go build some business, and go make some money. Cool. These are also the same kind of guys that tell you to go punch fear in the face. I, cool. That's fine. But there's some real things that come up and that happen. And I want to talk about them as someone who's been through it just these last couple of years where I distanced myself from everyone. Not that anything was wrong. I needed for myself to really clear my mind to get to a place that I needed space. I needed space to think in a very different way. I knew that there were things that I've been wanting to do for a very long time in my own life and shift in ways that most people just don't want to do. Kind of like the black sheep, not really close to either side of my family. My friends have their own ways of doing things. I just want to constantly improve. And so I just moved a little bit further away. And that distance that it created helped me really start to see things. So the first year and a half, as I'm grinding, as I'm looking at things, as I'm working, a lot of the past is going to come up. And I think this is where people don't like having a lot of silence and a lot of space because it's really difficult because you're going to play out old conversations. I had to work on my mother wound. I had to work on past relationships and where I contributed to some of the things that I didn't like. And I was able to see my role on top of what was going on and what I was attracting and what my responsibility and my accountability were so that I can have better relationships going forward. So here's the thing, you get into hermit mode so that the next phase of your life, you're going to decide how long you want to stay there. And it's not to stay there forever. We're social creatures. We're supposed to be in companionship. We're supposed to be in communion with each other, in community. But the goal is that you move through anything that comes up. And if you can do it quickly as possible so that you're light as a feather as you're moving forward, so that you can move quickly and fast into your future. And that in the present, you're not bombarded by the past and by that weight that tends to hang on us when we keep cycling through. For some people, I've heard a lot of rich people talk about how they have to move away from their home place. They have to move outside of where they grew up so that they can reinvent themselves and change themselves. You see this in spiritual text as well. And so there's something to this, but what will come up are old stories. You might see things in a different way. And I just want to have a conversation about it to say it's totally normal. It's okay. And the faster you can move through it, and not to put pressure on you to move through it fast, but it's the past. Like you can't change anything about it. The best you can do is just see a different perspective of it, make peace with it, and let it go. When I was dealing with my mother wound, and I think, the human experience is traumatic to begin with. Everyone's kind of got a parent wound, a mother wound, a father wound. We all trying to just figure it out as we go. There's no handbook for anybody to work through this. And so there's a certain point when you're an adult where you're just like, it was what it was. They didn't know what they were doing. I don't need to hold on to it. I can figure out what I need for myself and how I might do things differently and move forward. And so as I was working through some old stuff, I was getting really bogged down and angry and upset. And my guides, my higher self, kind of had this really stern conversation with me, or I had this internal dialogue where, as I was being shown what was happening, they were like, look, we're not showing you this for you to get upset. We're showing you this so that A, you've done enough work so that you can handle it, and B, that you can process it and move forward. So I'm able to see the actual reality of the relationship so that I understand where I needed to put my boundaries, where I needed to have more self-worth, more self-love, more compassion for myself. So I can build on that. So I'm strong. I'm united with myself. Self-love is the most attractive thing you could have. It's the best thing you could do for yourself. And I can just breeze into the future. I can breeze into what's present day in front of me and moving forward. And I think sometimes when we think about going into hermit mode, or you kind of hear this like monk mode or hermit mode, you put your head down, and there's a lot that can come up, especially if you've never dealt with it. I've also heard stories of people that have Alzheimer's disease, the end of their life, if they've never dealt with anything, that comes up. Old stories, old memories come up. Those emotional, energetic memories are stuck in the body. They just are. And if we don't process them in a timely manner, and not that we dwell on it, that's not the goal. The goal is that we just move through it, we make peace with it, as hard as it is sometimes, so that we can be light going forward and we're not carrying around these past stories and old baggage. I don't know if you've ever met anybody that was like that, and they just tend to ruminate on past hurts, and it doesn't really serve anybody. It's done. It's absolutely done. So if you have this calling to go into hermit mode and to just kind of, either it happened because it just happened, or you actually want to go do this, there's a calling for your soul to do something bigger in life. And sometimes we have to distance ourselves to make space so that we can do the things that we want, and we can rewire our thinking, we can rewire our nervous system, we can reconfigure our emotional states, and so that we have a better way to handle ourselves when things come up and we know our triggers. This is like the best, juiciest work, but it's also being able to confront your shadows and not live in it. I feel like sometimes shadow work gets a little too played up. There's always a shadow to the light. Like you're always going to be in that shadow mode. And it's an ebb and flow, like always, because it's a part of you. Your shadow is a part of you. It's you're one with your shadow, you're one with your light. That is a balanced human. That you're going to have really great highs, and sometimes you're going to have lows. And the goal is that you just maintain and you know how to dip and kind of balance in between the two so that you can get back to being centered and being grounded. And the dips don't have to take as long as they used to, which is why this work is so vital. But I just want to give an opportunity to have a conversation about what's going to come up, and to not fear it, to not resist it. And that it doesn't mean that if that does come up and it's really difficult, that it makes you want to go back to an old life or go back to distracting yourself in different ways, or think that maybe this isn't for you. It takes a lot to be able to want to handle that. It's building personal strength. It's building character. It's not for everybody. Not everybody wants to do this kind of work. Not everybody wants to kind of put their head down and figure out how to really add value to the world. That's what this is. When you're, even if you're like, I just want to make money, I want to figure out how to build products, what you're really saying is, I want to add value to the world, and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to figure out, who am I? And you are somebody and you do have purpose. Who are you to go and create something in the world that has value in exchange for something else? It's a noble pursuit. But in that context of working, there's going to be moments when it's quiet because you've cut everything out. You've cut social media time out. You've cut friends and family out for just a moment, not forever, but maybe just some distance so that you can focus. Things are going to pop in. And as they pop in, I just want you to know it's normal. It's absolutely normal. And it's so that you can deal with it. It's rising to the surface. It's a beautiful opportunity to look at it, to deal with it, to acknowledge it, to make peace with it, to really gain the wisdom in it. This channel is called Wisdom Healings. It is the wisdom that you have inside of you that create your healings over and over and over again. That is the only way we heal, is that we have that insight, we have that understanding, we know how to reframe our thoughts, we know how to shift our emotions into different kinds of energy, and we just become these superhumans that get to do the things that we want to do because that's our birthright. It's our birthright to go and create. It's written in all the text, in all of the spiritual texts, and it's our birthright to be abundant. And so part of that is that we have to sometimes take ourselves out of situations that we were born in, that we were raised in, because they taught us what they needed to be taught. They taught us lessons that we needed. We need to alchemize all of that and sift through it and take all of those golden nuggets and move it into this next phase of life. This is part of the process. The faster you can understand that and move through it, and sometimes it takes a little bit of time, 6 months, a year, maybe a little bit longer. Have compassion with yourself. And then when these things come up again, you're so familiar with those old stories, with those old triggers, they're just going to feel like little flies in the room. They're not even going to like really affect you because you've done the work and you're so strong and stable in who you are. It's not going to matter. So I hope that this was beneficial. I hope that as you move through this like hermit mode, monk mode, please know that you are destined for something great. You are here to give value, to offer the valuable insights that you've gained in the work that you do, in the work that you've done. The world wants to hear what you have to say. There's a reason that you're polishing up. You're like a diamond in the rough and you're polishing up your sparkle so that you can shine out in the world. Know that I'm here for you. If you ever have comments or you ever want to have a conversation, please feel free to put something in the comments. You can reach out. This is why this video is here, so that you know that you're not alone in this process, that it is a process, that these things do happen. If you feel that there's things coming up that are more traumatic than you can handle, please go and seek professional help. That's what they're there for. But this is just a way to identify that it's not just as simple as I'm going to put my head down and go into monk mode. There's some things that come across, and I just want to give you some nurturing care as you move through it to know that these things are going to come. These things are going to come, and this is okay. This is exactly what we want, because this is what makes you a strong leader. It makes you a strong human. It makes you have compassion for yourself, and then you're going to offer that to the rest of the world. And that is a beautiful, beautiful thing that we want to make sure, I want to make sure that you're cared for as you do these things, that it's not blindsided by this over-focused on one goal and you're over-consumed with your logical mind. Like there's a lot of it that goes into play. You're basically reconstructing who you are as a human, and to have compassion with that as you move forward to build something amazing, to be something amazing. It doesn't even matter what it is. It's just the fact that you're working on yourself, and working doesn't necessarily mean it's like laborious or hard. It's just that you're putting in the effort. You're putting in the effort of time and care into yourself. And that is an absolute benefit in the world for the rest of us. So I wish you well on your journey. I hope that if you have any questions or any comments, I'd love to hear how things are going. And it's part of the process, and I cannot wait to see how you shine in the world. Thank you for being here. I love you all. Take care.